Some people say video games rot your brain, but I think they work different muscles that maybe you don't normally use. Within the last 40 years, humans have been able to create visually stunning modules of the world through computer programming, and they have made these accessible in the palms of one's hands or in the comfort of your living room. Video games and computer programming technology allow people to access worlds outside of the usual laws of our based reality. However, being able to access these things with such ease may have vast impact on the world that programmers and computer scientists have bothered to think about. The definition of development is the action or process of bringing something to a fuller or more advanced condition. The destructive effects are not on boys' cognitive ability, but on their motivation and their connectedness with the real world. Another author explains, there are plenty of skills I've learned from playing video games. It's more interactive than watching TV because there are more problems to solve as you're using your brain. The addiction of video games into the lives of adolescents has both adverse and beneficial effects on the development of their mental state. The definition of simulation is the technique of imitating the behavior of some situation or process. Major advancements in technology have allowed for mass consumption of virtual reality, especially in the form of video games. It would seem as though the computer scientists and programmers behind the advancements were unaware of the scope of how great an impact it would have on the psychology of people, especially video games that allow for the creation of worlds by means of virtual reality. In the past, humans were able to make virtual worlds through the use of words and pictures, such as in this case, pen and paper role playing games. However, video games create a much more visually and therefore physiologically compelling world for the users to experience the ability of a person to slip into another world, which is usually the topic of fantasy. Yet, in modern times, many are able to do this with ease. It seems as though the culture does not recognize the magnitude of this ability and may have overwhelming impact on the world of generations which has received it.
Although some believe that there is no psychological or developmental effect of playing video games, there have been many studies to prove that people are becoming addicted a lot with many other problems. For example, in a national sample of youth ages 8 to 18, 8.5% of video game players exhibit pathological patterns of play as defined by exhibiting at least 6 of the 11 symptoms of damage to the family, social, school, or psychological. Uh, the number of teens playing video games is increasing every year and could soon become a bigger problem if it is not controlled.
Since 1993, video games have been on a rise, with 90% of boys and 60% of girls playing video games weekly. As time goes on, people start to question if video games can affect a child's development. It has been reported that teachers feel that some children may be retreating into the fantasy world of computer games as a way to avoid what the real world presents them. Children these days use simulation video games to escape the real world, which can cause them to avoid real world problems. Research has confirmed the high incidence of game featuring aggression content. Kids can be influenced by video games, whether they are violent games, sports games, or learning games. Kids are susceptible to being affected by video games, whether it's negative or positive. In today's society, it is a social norm for kids to play video games without limits, and their parents do not know the effect of their child's development when playing. Although most video games can become addicting to the youth of today, many studies in educational setting have performed to determine whether or not simulation games affect how adolescents learn, develop, and react in controlled environment. The success of the computer game in education is tied to the unique features in as an interactive medium. Computer games provide an artificial, rule-based environment in which the player manipulates the game system without the normal constraint of the time and space. Unique features that are available in some of today's simulation games is an educational setting enable adolescents to establish rules that are associated with particular environments. These environments are without limitations or restrictions. Games vary tell players what they need to know. Instead, the primary mode of acquiring knowledge and understanding in games involve constructing meaning by interacting with people, subjects, tools, and environment. Simulation games most often do not instruct the player how to perform or what to do. They tend to offer more of the player, such as interface with other users, many tools such as developmental skills and variety of objects in various environments which to build a game form. As simulation gaming becomes more popular in educational setting, we learn that there are minimal negative consequences involved when used from the right purpose. In the article Learning from SimCity, researchers found that games like SimCity actually enhances learning and also found that this particular game made the subjects more aware to simple economy and urban concepts. Other games such as Sick at the South Beach allow subjects to explore possible reasons why people become sick at the beach. These types of games encourage players to study strategies. Educational games can have positive impact on our children, which allow them to exile, but social issues can arise if gameplay takes control of our youth lives. With the increase in gaming systems and the variety of simulation games available for our youth, social well being can be decreased if adolescents are not aware of precautions that should be taken to ensure a healthy experience. With the increased role of home computers in children's lives, it has come to increase concerns about how children may be affected. Time spent on home computers may displace other activities that have more developmental value, and merit of the computer-based activities has also been questioned. As our technology increases, our children's lives have come susceptible to spending an extensive amount of time playing games instead of other activities, which can lead to a decrease in social development. Changes in technology bring the potential of children's users' thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Several researchers have concerned about the potential of some people to demonstrate pathological patterns, behaviors using computers, internet, and video game technology. The use of advanced and visually stunning technology could have an impact on adolescents throughout which alter their behavior patholog- in a malignant. Pathological use of video games could be more common with the increased quality of technology. The risk of our youth becoming socially incompetent is prevalent with excessive amount of gaming available. This can affect social skills as well as others. They thought, or though they allow for an improvement in cognitive functions, video games pose the risk of capturing the lives of vulnerable youth. In the last couple of decades, Technology has advanced exponentially. Along with a great stride to perfecting technology in video games, there's also come problems with how society uses it. In kids, it can affect them positively and negatively, but it matters on how you use them. Some kids use simulation games as a means to escape the real world and not have to deal with real world problems. As simulation gaming becomes more popular in an educational setting, we learn that there are minimal negative consequences involved when used for the right purposes. They need to have more control on adolescents' use on video games. If we don't pull limitations on our children's video game usage, there will be developmental consequences that we will have to face in the future. Parents need to gain control on how children use games by setting limitations and ensuring that there's some learning experiences along with the games. We do not provide if we do not provide educational and discipline for this generation how on how the use of technology and video games, there will be many developmental effects on society.